Welcome back to our Python class. And in our previous lectures we saw how we can install our Python to the right path, right? And also how we can install Python packages from other external sources using our py.org to see the packages, of course. And basically the command is very simple: pip install camel case, from your command line, right? Very simple, right? Many different, literally tens of thousands of libraries, again, packages or however you want to call it. But the issue is when we do pip list, right? You have these versions. So let's imagine you have 3 different projects and you're working on, you start one maybe a year ago, you have nice, everything works great. You start another half year later, another year later. But the thing is, they use different versions of these installed packages, right? These external libraries, right? First of all, if you have a global installation, you can't do it. But, or maybe you're taking over from somebody else's project who made it maybe 5 years ago, right? It will have different versions. So this is, so-called dependency hell, right? And in most languages, right, you have to have some way of isolating projects, right, with these external dependencies, right? If you only use standard library, right, Python built-in library, you don't have this problem necessarily. But if you use external libraries, it is very important to separate them. And of course, like most programmers, I've been guilty of myself. I generally don't separate everything, right? I have some, you can see here, I have some public packages. In ideal world, I wouldn't have actually any of these. I would just do everything separately. So the way Python handles is using virtual environments. So idea is to isolate each project in its own, its own virtual world, right? These virtual environments are actually extremely lightweight. They're not something like not like VirtualBox, or maybe you heard of Docker, things like that. It's much, even something much simpler. It's basically just a folder with some files, basically, right, on some links. For these files, basically, some system links, basically. So it's not really, it doesn't mean installing a new operating system or anything like that, right? So it's basically useful for isolating different projects with different dependencies, right? And again, also possible to use different versions of Python on the same machine, right? And also, like I said, we can isolate the packages installed with pip. So there have been multiple virtualization solutions for Python, but the current one, right, there's some other ones such as Poetry and things like that, is venv, right? So this is a special program, right, and this will create a folder, right? So again, you need to have, of course, you need a Python version here, right? So check, yeah, I have it, and we go to our main folder, right, here, of my project. I mean, of course, if I go deeper, it will be for everything underneath, but I want to go here, right? So I want to have my whole project to have the same isolated environment. So let's create it. The instructions here say my environment. I would probably use venv, right? So I will use something like this. You can use my environment, but I'm lazier. I will use venv, right? So this here I use Control Z. Typically I use yeah, that's my preference, right? So that's what I'm using, and let's see what happens. So I will run well, let's try it. Okay, and I have lots of, thank you Windows for giving me garbage. So yeah, let's take a look. Notice what happened. First of all, Visual Studio Code is smart. It says, we notice a new virtual environment has been created. Do you want to select for your workplace folder? Hopefully, you also get the same prompt, right? You hopefully don't click don't show. Say yes, right? Notice something that changed. You have a virtual environment here, so your scripts, when you run it here, right, it will be from virtual environment. We can check if you didn't get this prompt, you can fix it. You go here. Command or Control Shift P, select interpreter, and you see it here, right? You have the base, right? That's what we were using before, global. And this is what I recommend. Yes, thank you, Visual Studio Code. I agree with you. It is, you want to recommend use this here. So basically, you have what this this command did, it created a new folder in your here called venv, right? And it has basically a scripts here. It has everything needed to run Python basically through here, right? Include, let me see, I think it's here. Where's Python itself? I don't even want to look at it here. It's somewhere here. Oh, Python script. It's in scripts. Actually, it's in scripts. Yeah. So there's Python here, right? So everything else needed to run the Python itself is here, and pip is here as well. So okay. So now when I run it, my command from here, it will run this virtual environment, right? Again, named venv. Again, very typical. And notice also I have a Git Ignore file. It is recommended. You see, I have 1.k additions to my Git. Not something you want generally, right? Because you have extra cache, external libraries in virtual environment. You don't want this. So what do? You basically, if you don't have already edited, you add the name of your folder, right? This, right? And that's it. Control S, and I have 3 files. So I added them. So I added venv folder to Git Ignore. Yeah. Again, Git Ignore. Also, I should probably add also this extra code, right? Commit. And sync changes, right? So very important, because again, you don't want to include it in your. You can always recreate. That's the idea. So that is the idea. You can recreate it afterwards. So now let's go. So this is good. We have here, right? Virtual environment. Okay, very good. It tells you where it lives, where your Python lives now, right? But now we have one more step. Is to run it also terminal, right? Your terminal also should be in the same environment, right? We don't have it here yet. We don't have it activated. So what we do is we do something like this. We go to venv folder, right? Right, that's our current folder. If you are on Linux or Mac, you have different forward slashes. So I do scripts, right? And activate. Now, if it is on Linux, I think you do just activate. But since I'm in PowerShell on Windows, I need PS1, right? And that's the script I'm going to run. It's a special PowerShell script. And now notice I have venv. Okay, so this is your sign that your terminal is also in a virtual environment. And let's check what's happening. Let's check what Python we have. 3.10. Okay, great. But let's check what version. What do we have? Pip list. What do we have? Nothing. We have nothing, which is great. You see, I have completely clean. I have no external libraries except, of course, pip itself and setup tools, which is the older way of how you install packages. So pip. Now you are in great shape. Now we can install whatever we want for this project without polluting our global installation. So this is a recommended way of working in multiple packages. Now, if you have a PyCharm, and also I think there might be plugins in Visual Studio Code which will handle this automatically, right? So let me see actually what happens if I restart the computer. I mean the Visual Studio Code. Let me close it. Let me do it again. Let's see, we have a few more minutes, right? Yeah. So and let's see. Now terminal, it's loading up. Yeah, unfortunately, so the virtual environment, it remembers, but this I have to run the script again, right? There should be a way of setting it up automatically, not venv, right? Scripts, right? Tab, I'm using tab since I'm lazy, right? Not bad, that's also will work on a command line. On this, now we are in good shape, right? There should be a way of setting up this automatically when you start it, right? Because this part works, now it also works here, right? Okay, so we check pip list, right? We see everything is here. So let's install something, right? Now let's install something, maybe a cool library, right? Something. Now we can start installing libraries what we really need for. I'll start with giving you a nice little library, a useful library. Useful external library is no, that's not a TQDM, right? So, right, yeah. Yeah, on. Right, so I have still an example. Let's do this. So let's see this work, right? This won't work because I don't have the library tqdm, right? So let me run it. It does not work. No module found tqdm. Okay, so I'm going to import it. So pip install tqdm. Again, if you go to, let's double check I didn't misspell it. tqdm. No, I did not install. It's a progress meter. It's really nice. It's also very actively updated. It's only like last month, right? Has a very good. Let's see, we can check, of course, homepage, right? Again, documentation, right? It's very nice. Again, it's obviously not required, but it's been around for a while, right? It's a progress. Apparently, it comes from an Arabic word, maybe in Spanish. Te quiero demasiado. Okay, I love you so much. That's a great one. Okay, right. So it's basically a progress meter. So let's see. So I installed it. I'm going to install it. Right. Notice it also installed Colorama, something called Colorama, which I had no idea I needed this, right? But TQDM needs it. So that's, again, it's a small package. But let's check what we have now. Pip list. Yes, you see, it has TQDM, but also has this Colorama, which apparently is needed for TQDM. So now we should be able to test it. So this is a loop of what, 10 million, right? A simple, really simple loop, right? Let's run it, right? Pass, right? Let's test it. You see how nice little text, you basically include whatever you're looping to in TQDM wrapper, basically, right? It will give you a nice little visualization of what's happening. Of course, here it's silly, but it tells you. You can say my machine. This is not a fast. It did about 5 million iterations a second. It also gives you a progress of what's happening, right? So very nice. If you need, so you can wrap it. So you can use TQDM to wrap any iterable, not just range, right? Let's see any example. No, I don't. I already have it. Okay, I have it. Or come on, yeah. Let's see what happens. Of course, we could do 100. Gotta be billion loops. That'd be billion. I don't know if I want to do this. Billion items. This is 10 million. Already took how much? It took less than. Took pretty quickly, but I say 100 times more is not very good. But let's do it. Let's do maybe million. Right, so it'll be 100 million. Right. Let's see what happens here. Right. Do nothing. That's the first one. Now, of course, yeah, second loop, right, gives you everything for a second loop. It's very fast, right? So it's going to be million ones. So I'm going to close it, of course, because printing, it actually takes, again, see what happens when you follow blindly a Copilot, right? It will, printing takes longer than looping, right? I have million of these loops, right? So I probably should just quit it, right? But, yeah, I was able to quit, right? So I was able to Control C, right? Okay, but again, so don't do this, right? Maybe we could do this, right? Again, maybe. But not a great example. Maybe this will take forever, right? Maybe it's another one for list. Maybe some big list of items. Let's do numbers. You know, numbers would be, you know, list range. You know, million, right? So, you know, total, right? No, on total, of course, right? Numbers, yeah, and number, right? So of course we could use, we could have used, we could have used some, yeah. So print total, right? Okay, so 1 million items, you're gonna add them, right? On, so you wrap it. You don't need a description. Yeah. First loop, right? It went pretty quickly, right? Not as quickly. Notice, not as quickly as a blank one, right? This is a blank pass is a blank instruction, right? Right here, actually, we did some work, right? So this is a little bit slower, right? 3 million instructions or 4 million in a second, and we have our result, right? Okay, so hopefully this gives you an idea of how TQDM works. Very useful when you have some longer jobs running, right? Some data processing work, right? And for loops, it will give you a nice estimate. Okay, But now, finally, what do we do? How do we preserve these libraries for the future? Because if you remember correctly, we ignored this virtual environment, right? So what happens if you want to install this? You clone this my project in somewhere else, right? Well, I'll show you what you do. Well, you can always remove this virtual environment, basically, right? Delete this, complete this folder, right? And it will be gone. It will be gone, right? And it will be just completely gone. So, but I want to preserve this for the future. So what I do is pip freeze, right? Requirements text. It's, of course, this name could be anything, but it's a very common use called requirements.text. And let's see what happens. Notice this bigger. This is like a directional symbol operator. So this will create a file. Notice here, I have requirements text. It's special. It's Visual Studio Code. No, this is Python specific file. But it's very simple. It basically tells you these two libraries are needed by this project, right? So this means this is all you need. You don't need this whole virtual environment. It means, okay, you have this version, right? You can also, by the way, change this to be greater than 1 or less than 1, but the equal means exactly, I want this exact version. So next time, if you create this project separately, you are able to install exact libraries as needed. So let's commit this, added requirements. Right. Yeah. Commit. Oh, I didn't make a name. Sorry, requirements. I need a name. Sync changes. And now, before we finish, let me show you how to get back to this. Let's say you remove this. I'm gonna pip uninstall tqdm, right? Right. Okay, I need to agree, of course, uninstalling, right? Yes. Right, pip list. Let's see, they have Colorama still? Actually, I do have. So actually, the thing is, that's why uninstalling. It'd be nice if you install Colorama, but maybe it's, why doesn't it install Colorama? Because it might be used by another project, actually, right? And that's much harder. So I would also pip uninstall Colorama. Again, I could have just deleted this whole folder and it'd be much easier, actually, right? So pip uninstall Colorama. Yes, okay. Now I have pip list. I have only these beginning packages, right? I'm completely tabula rasa, so to say, right? Completely new. But I would like to install it from requirements, right? So this actually is something, where is it? Yeah, so you can install it. You have a requirements, basically simply very this pip install the -r on the requirements file. So let's try this. So pip install -r requirements, sorry. Yeah, let's try this. And that's it. And now we are back. Pip list, and we are back in business. So that's how you would do it if you when you start a new project. Remember, you don't have the whole 1,000 files needed. You just do this command, pip, -m venv. So this is required. This last one is whatever name you want, but typically use env or venv, right? And again, it's a good idea to add venv to Git Ignore, right? Right. Okay. All right. So then you activate the script, right? When you start it, and now you are professionally using the best practices, of course, for isolating your projects. Very nice, again, so you don't have to worry about your versions having any conflicts, right? Each project has its own virtual environment, right? So again, it's just a folder, really, right? Nothing really complex, right? It's a very lightweight virtualization. We're still using the same operating system, same resources, everything, right? So hopefully this helped you with setting a professional environment, and we will continue in class with troubleshooting. Thank you for listening.